Welcome, brave souls, to the realm of the unknown. Here in the heart of darkness we unravel the chilling tales that lurk in the shadows, stories that will grip your imagination and chill you to the core. Prepare yourself for spine-tingling narratives that delve into the depths of fear, where every whisper holds a secret and every shadow conceals a terror. Join our community of thrill seekers as we explore the macabre, the mysterious, and the downright terrifying. But remember, once you enter, there's no turning back. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a moment of our haunting adventures. Are you ready to embrace the fear? The darkness awaits. The ocean. Vast, unknowable. A dark mirror reflecting our own fears back at us. Down in the black where sunlight fears to tread, something stirs, something ancient, something hungry. They say the sea holds many secrets. This is the story of one of them. The men and women aboard the USS Leviathan, they knew the risks. They stared into the abyss every day, pushed the limits of human endurance, but nothing, not even a lifetime at sea, could prepare them for what waited for them in the crushing depths of the Mariana Trench. The Leviathan, a steel titan, a nuclear predator, was built to brave the ocean's fury. This wasn't some pleasure cruise. This was a mission to the edge of the map, where the Earth itself seemed to groan and shift. Captain Marcus Hayes, grizzled, hardened, a man who'd weathered storms both literal and figurative, helmed this ship. His crew, the best of the best, hand-picked for their grit and nerve, knew something was different about this mission. The air crackled with it. The readings were off the charts, seismic activity unlike anything they'd ever seen, electromagnetic interference that made the hair on their necks stand on end. Something was down there, something big, and it was calling. The deeper they went, the more the ocean seemed to push back. The hull creaked and groaned, a symphony of metal protesting the immense pressure. But it was the silence that was truly unnerving, broken only by the whispers. Faint at first, like phantom radio signals, scratching at the edges of their sanity, then louder, clearer, voices, familiar voices, calling their names, luring them deeper into the darkness. They were the first whispers of the Leviathan's curse, a curse that would haunt their waking hours and poison their dreams, a curse that promised only madness and death. The ocean had spoken, and the Leviathan, trapped in its cold embrace, was about to learn the true meaning of fear. The Mariana Trench, a scar on the face of the planet, miles deep, a gash in the Earth's crust that plunged them into a world of eternal night. The Leviathan, for all its might, seemed like a toy submarine against the crushing vastness of the abyss. Captain Hayes, his face etched with concern, watched the sonar readouts like they were a death sentence. He'd been in tight spots before, but this was different. This was like sailing into the mouth of a monster. "Report," he barked, his voice tight. Lieutenant Daniels, his face illuminated by the eerie glow of the sonar screen, swallowed hard. "Seismic activity's off the charts, Captain. Whatever's causing it, it's big. Bigger than anything we've ever encountered." The Leviathan shuddered, a deep tremor that ran through the vessel like a shockwave. The silence after the tremor was deafening. It pressed down on them, suffocating, heavy with unspoken menace. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their faces pale in the artificial light of the submarine. What the hell was that? Ensign Harper, his voice barely a whisper, broke the silence. He was fresh out of the academy, his face still carrying the bloom of youth. They all had been young once. Langley, her voice strained, tried to sound reassuring. "Just a tremor, Harper. Happens all the time down here." but her words rang hollow even to her own ears. This was something else. Something wrong. The air itself seemed to crackle with a strange energy. A low hum, barely audible, vibrated through the deck plates. It set their teeth on edge. "Captain, I'm picking up something on sonar." Daniel's voice, tight with urgency, cut through the oppressive silence. "It's big, sir, and it's moving towards us." Hayes, his face hardening into a mask of command, didn't hesitate. "Battle stations. All hands, this is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." The Leviathan, a steel predator moments ago, was now the prey. The hunter had become the hunted. The sonar blip grew larger, closer. Whatever it was massive, too big to be a natural creature. Another tremor, this one stronger, shook the submarine. Metal groaned, rivets popped, the lights flickered, plunging them momentarily into darkness. Then silence again. But this time the silence was a living thing, a predator savoring the fear of its prey. "Captain, I'm getting a visual." Daniel's voice was barely audible over the pounding of their hearts. His face, illuminated by the sonar screen, was ashen. Hayes stared at the image on the screen, his blood turning to ice. It wasn't a reflection of their own fear. It was real. An eye, larger than any creature had a right to be, stared back at them from the abyss. An eye that spoke of unimaginable age, unimaginable power, and an utter indifference to their plight. "God help us all," whispered Langley, her voice trembling. The eye blinked. And then the sonar screen went dead. The Leviathan, caught in a grip far older than time itself, was being drawn deeper into the abyss. Their descent into madness had just begun. The abyss held its breath. The Leviathan, a wounded beast, drifted in the current. Captain Hayes, his face a rictus of tension, made a decision. They couldn't outrun whatever was out there, their only hope to see the enemy, to understand. "Launch the Kraken," he ordered, his voice rough but steady. The Kraken, their remote submersible, was their only eyes in the abyss. A tiny metal fish armed with cameras and floodlights about to swim with Leviathans. It detached from the main vessel, its umbilical cord trailing behind like a silver thread. "Kraken deployed, Captain," reported Chief Petty Officer Jones, his voice tight. He manned the controls, his face illuminated by the glow of the monitors. They watched the feed, grainy images from the edge of oblivion. The Kraken, a lonely beacon of light, descended deeper into the trench. The water itself seemed to darken, the pressure growing, squeezing. Then they saw it. Looming out of the darkness, a structure. Not natural, man-made, or something else entirely. "What in God's name?" Langley whispered, her voice catching in her throat. The structure was immense, dwarfing the Leviathan. It was a city of the deep, built of a material that seemed to absorb light itself. And etched upon its surface, glowing with an eerie blue light, were glyphs, symbols, a language older than time. "Get closer," Hayes ordered, his voice barely a murmur. He knew the risks, knew they were pushing their luck. But curiosity, that ancient human flaw, burned brighter than fear. The Kraken, responding to Jones's touch, crept closer to the structure. The glyphs pulsed, their light intensifying. Then the whispers started again, but this time they were different, clearer, closer, and they were calling to them by name. "Mama?" Ensign Harper choked, his eyes wide with terror and something else, something that chilled the blood. Langley cried out, her hand flying to her mouth. She'd heard it too, her daughter's voice calling out from the abyss, but her daughter was thousands of miles away, safe at home, wasn't she? The whispers wormed their way into their minds, whispering secrets, promising forgotten dreams. They tugged at their sanity, unraveling the threads of their courage. "It's a trap!" Daniel shouted, his voice raw with panic. "It wants to lure us in!" Section 4. The walls have eyes. But it was too late. The Leviathan, caught in a current they couldn't see, lurched violently towards the structure. The humming intensified, a bone-jarring vibration that rattled their teeth. And then, the walls moved. The glyphs, those glowing symbols of madness, weren't just markings. They were eyes. Hundreds of them, opening, staring at them with a cold, alien hunger. The Kraken, its light swallowed by the abyss, went dark. The umbilical cord snapped, a severed artery of light and hope. They were alone, trapped in a cage of their own making with something ancient and monstrous. The abyss had opened its eyes, and it was staring right at them. The Leviathan's curse had begun. Section 1. The Leviathan Weeps. The Leviathan, once their bastion of steel and technology, now felt like a tomb. Condensation clung to the walls, cold and slick like the sweat of a dying thing. The humming, that bone-deep vibration, never ceased, a constant reminder of the monstrous presence outside. Strange how quickly fear could turn even the most hardened sailor into a superstitious child. They huddled together, seeking comfort in numbers, but the silence between them was thick with unspoken dread. "Captain, we can't stay here," Langley said, her voice strained. She was a woman of science, of logic, but the abyss had a way of unraveling even the most rational mind. Hayes, his face a mask of fatigue and grim determination, nodded curtly. "I know that, Commander, but we can't outrun it, and we can't fight it. Our only option is to try and understand it." Section 2. Whispers made flesh. The whispers had grown stronger, more insistent. They slithered through the ventilation shafts, hissed from the depths of the engine room, whispered their names, their darkest fears, their deepest desires. One by one, the crew began to succumb. They'd wander off, drawn by the siren song of the abyss, their eyes glazed over with a terrible, empty longing. They'd see their loved ones, beckoning them from the shadows, hear their voices calling them home. Langley found Ensign Harper curled up in a ball, sobbing uncontrollably. He'd ripped the headphones from his ears, but the whispers, they were inside his head now. "They're calling me, Commander," he whimpered, his voice breaking. "They're calling me home." The heart of the curse. Hayes, his resolve hardening with every lost soul, knew they were running out of time. They were like rats trapped in a cage, the bars closing in, their tormentor toying with them. He had to break the cycle. He gathered the remaining crew, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollowed out by fear and exhaustion. He could see the doubt in their eyes, the flicker of madness that threatened to consume them all. "We're going deeper," he announced, his voice echoing in the tense silence. "Deeper?" Langley's voice was sharp with disbelief. "Captain, that's insane! We're already at our limit! We're going to find the source of this curse," Hayes continued, his gaze unwavering. "We're going to face it head-on. It's our only chance." Abandoned ship. The descent was agonizingly slow, each creak a hammer blow to their nerves. The humming intensified, vibrating through their bones. And then, the alarms began to blare. Red lights pulsed, casting an infernal glow. "Captain, we've got multiple system failures." Chief Patel's voice was ragged with panic. "The reactor's overheating. We're losing pressure." The Leviathan was dying, picked apart by an unseen enemy. "Prepare the escape pods," Hayes ordered. It was their only chance. As the last of the crew scrambled into the escape pods, Hayes lingered, staring out the viewport into the darkness. Iron tears. The escape pods, tiny bubbles of hope against the crushing black, were their only way out. But even as they launched, a sense of dread, heavy and cold, clung to Hayes like a shroud. He could feel the abyss watching them, a predator sizing up its prey. The escape sequence was a blur of flashing lights, blaring alarms, and desperate prayers. Hayes, gripping the control panel, fought to keep the pod steady. The ocean, now a churning, malevolent force, eager to claim them. The pressure outside was immense, threatening to crush their fragile craft. He could hear Langley's voice over the comm system, strained but resolute. "Captain, are you reading me? Repeat, do you have a visual on the surface?" But there was no surface, only the endless black pressing in on them. Section 2. Into the Jaws of Madness. The humming, that damned soul-chilling humming, was louder now, vibrating through the hull of the escape pod, resonating in their very bones. It was a symphony of madness, an orchestra of the damned, and they were the unwilling audience. He could see it in the eyes of the crew, the fear, the resignation, the creeping madness that came from staring into the abyss for too long. They'd seen things no human being was ever meant to see, heard things that would haunt their waking nightmares. A high-pitched whine, like metal being tortured, pierced through the humming. The escape pod shuddered violently, thrown off course by a powerful current. What the hell was that? Chief Patel, his voice tight with panic, gripped the armrests of his seat. Hayes shook his head, his own heart pounding against his ribs. "I don't know, but I don't think we want to find out." Section 3. The Leviathan's Last Breath. The comm system crackled back to life. It was Langley, her voice a desperate rasp. "Captain, we're going down. Repeat, we're going down. The Leviathan, she's..." Her voice cut out, replaced by a deafening roar, a death rattle that echoed through the water, through the very bones of the escape pod, through their souls. The Leviathan, their once proud vessel, their home, their coffin, was gone. Dragged down into the abyss by something ancient and monstrous. A sacrifice to a god older than time. Hayes closed his eyes, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. He'd never believed in curses, in sea monsters, in the things that lurked in the shadows of the human psyche. He did now. Section 4. A Graveyard of Secrets. The escape pod bobbed on the surface like a forgotten toy. The storm had passed, leaving an eerie calm. Hayes emerged, his gaze sweeping the horizon. He was alive. But at what cost? He was the only survivor. The Leviathan was gone, swallowed by the abyss. A graveyard of steel and secrets, a testament to man's hubris and the ocean's power. He had stared into the abyss and seen the face of madness. The sea now held only terror, a siren song of despair, the Leviathan's curse. Weeks later, the official inquiry yielded nothing but cold comfort and colder questions. A catastrophic hull breach, they said, a tragic accident, an explanation as deep as a puddle, offering no solace to the families of the lost, no balm for the gnawing ache in Hayes's chest. He was a ghost in his own right, haunting the halls of the naval base, his eyes reflecting the endless black that had claimed his crew. The whispers, though fainter now, still echoed in his dreams, twisting his memories, blurring the line between sanity and madness. He was haunted by their faces, their voices, the echo of their laughter in the mess hall, the camaraderie forged in the crucible of the deep. Ghosts of the deep, forever bound to the steel coffin that had become their tomb. He tried to outrun it, the memory, the guilt, the crushing weight of the abyss that seemed to follow him wherever he went. But the sea, once a source of solace, now held only terror. He couldn't escape the feeling that something was watching him, waiting for him to let his guard down. He'd stare out at the ocean, its surface deceptively calm, and see the Leviathan's final plunge, the monstrous eye staring back at him from the depths. The abyss, he realized, wasn't a place. It was a presence, a hunger that could never be satiated, a darkness that could never be outrun. The world moved on, oblivious to the horrors that lurked beneath the waves. the secret swallowed by the deep. But Hayes couldn't forget. He was bound to the Leviathan, to her crew, to the curse that clung to him like a shroud. He left the Navy, seeking solace in anonymity, hoping to bury the memories in the mundane routines of civilian life. But the silence, once a welcome respite from the humming of the Leviathan's engines, now pressed in on him, suffocating him. The silence of the deep, he realized, was different. It wasn't the absence of sound, but the presence of something vast, ancient, and utterly indifferent to human suffering. A silence that swallowed everything, leaving behind only emptiness and the gnawing ache of what might have been. He tried to tell people, to warn them, to share the burden of his knowledge, but no one believed him. They called him crazy, a broken man haunted by his past, and in a way, they were right. But he knew the truth. He'd seen it with his own eyes. The abyss was real, and it was hungry. He dreamt of the Leviathan, her eyes staring up from the abyss. The Leviathan's story wasn't over. It was just beginning. The abyss was patient. It could wait. One day it would claim more victims. Beware the silence of the deep, for it is in the silence that the abyss speaks. The Leviathan's curse lived on, a chilling reminder.
Thanks for joining us in the shadows tonight. If you enjoyed the terror, like and subscribe for more spine-chilling stories. Share your thoughts below. And remember, stay close to the light. Until next time, sleep tight if you can.